Well, welcome back to the kitchen here on the Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. I am your Fat Daddy host, Craig, and today we are taking a look at the fantasy football drafts for the 2026 season. Last episode, we talked about guys that I love at their current draft position. Today, we're going to take a look at the guys that I do not love, guys that I think are being overvalued, being drafted way too high right now, and guys that I'm steering clear of in my fantasy football drafts coming up here in the next month or so. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. At the quarterback position, we are going to Philadelphia, to a guy who has been up and down as a fantasy quarterback over the years. He's had some really great years, had some really bad years. A lot of that comes and goes with who the offensive coordinator is. We saw with Kellen Moore, the Eagles offense was dynamite. Jalen Hurts had tons of rushing touchdowns and a lot of fantasy points. We've seen with other offensive coordinators where his numbers have really tanked. And I just think making the change to a new offensive coordinator this year, I think losing A.J. Brown, and just some other question pieces there with the Eagles, I think this is going to be one of those down years for Jalen Hurts. I definitely think right now he's being drafted as the quarterback 8 in most drafts. He is going in the middle, late 6th round, and that's just a little too steep for me. When I look at guys that are going around him, you've got a Joe Burrow, who obviously he has his question marks as well, but you've got Jackson Dart, who I think last year may have outpaced Hurts had he played every game. You have Caleb Williams, who did outpace him. You have Dak Prescott way later than Jalen Hurts, and Dak Prescott was a top 5 quarterback last year. You've got guys like I talked about last episode, Brock Purdy, who are outside the top 10 right now, but I think will be a top 10 quarterback. And when you're drafting a guy that's going as quarterback 8, the real difference between quarterback 8 and quarterback, say, 12 is not that much. So reaching for a quarterback here in these middle rounds, I just think that there's so much more value around him at positions like running back and receiver that I would much rather wait on a quarterback a couple more rounds into that 9-10 turn and get a guy like a Dak Prescott, who's traditionally going there. A guy like Patrick Mahomes, who is being majorly undervalued, I think, coming off of that knee surgery. Obviously, you got to watch that a little bit, but a guy like him, Brock Purdy, I talked about. Bo Nix was a top 10 quarterback last year, and he's being drafted outside of that, well outside of that. So I just think reaching for a guy like Jalen Hurts, who has a lot of question marks around him right now on that Philadelphia offense, I think that could really derail your draft process a little bit, reaching for a quarterback when there's other guys around him that have better upside potential. Staying at the quarterback position, we are going to right around that same draft position is a guy in Trevor Lawrence, who last year was a top 10 quarterback. Let's see where he came in at. Trevor Lawrence, he was a top 5 quarterback. He was even better than I thought. But obviously a guy who has struggled over the years to stay consistent, had a couple of years ago where he only played 10 games, battled those injuries. I just have a hard time taking Trevor Lawrence there when I can wait and get those guys that I just mentioned, the Dak Prescotts, the Patrick Mahomes, the Justin Herberts, even. I've seen Lawrence go ahead of him. Jackson Dart is there. Caleb Williams is there. There's so many guys around him that I think have a higher ceiling, maybe a safer floor. Maybe that's a better way to say it. But I have a hard time taking Trevor Lawrence when he has a lot of questions in a Liam Cohen offense that really took the league by storm last year. They were really good, and everything should point to them being good again, but I also think that they are going to have more out there on film. I think that teams are going to shut it down a little bit more, and I still just question Trevor Lawrence because until last year, he'd really struggled to live up to that hype that he that he had coming out of college. This was supposed to be the next generational talent that just won Super Bowl every year, and he has really struggled to live up to that. I think that he's got some capable pass catchers. He's got a really good run game with him. And I do think Liam Cohen is a good coach that's going to put him in good position. But I just think that price is a little too high for me. And when I'm going through these videos and telling you the guys that I love and the guys that I hate, it's all relative to where they're being drafted at this moment. Obviously, the ADPs are going to change a lot over the next month as real drafts start to happen. But for me, Trevor Lawrence there in the 8th round, end of the 8th round, beginning of the 9th round, that's just too steep for my liking. I would rather go get a guy like Dak Prescott who has proven it, who has two of the best receivers in the game. I like Jacksonville's receivers. I just don't know if they are top-notch stud wide receiver ones, and I do know that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are both wide receiver ones for basically any franchise you put them on right now. So I would rather wait and not reach on Trevor Lawrence there. If you do, best of luck. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I think Trevor Lawrence is pretty up and down. Moving on to the running back position, we are going to take a look at. Hold on to your seats here. This one's hard to say, but we are going to that first round, one of, if not, outside of the top two guys, but the next running back taken off the board in a lot of drafts, Christian McCaffrey. He is obviously outstanding player, outstanding athlete, and he has done great things over his career for fantasy football managers. I just really worry about his age. I worry about his workload last year. He toted the rock a ton last year. He had a ton of catches last year. He was the overall running back 2. I just worry with his workload, his age, and just taking him there in the early first round, middle of the first round, that you could pay the price. Now, fantasy analysts have been saying this for years, and, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. When he is healthy, he has dominated. The other years where he's gotten hurt, that's where he's struggled. But if he's healthy, he's still putting up the numbers. I guess I'm okay if you want to take him there, but you have to know that risk that you are taking is very high, and it only gets higher every single year that Christian McCaffrey continues playing, because he is getting the ball, 300 times in a season, and that's a lot. That adds up very quickly, and love the player, love the talent, hate the usage that he has had over the past, 5, 6, 7 years. Risky pick there with your first overall pick. It could either make or break your draft, your season. You take a guy like that. Obviously, anybody can get hurt. It's football. It's a very physical sport, and anybody that you take as a top pick could get hurt. But there's certain guys that have a little bit more risk than others, and with Christian McCaffrey's workload, that is enough to scare me away when I could take, one of the top receivers there and be okay. I mean, the running backs going around him, Jonathan Taylor, he obviously has his own question marks. James Cook has his own question marks. And then you're pretty much in receiver land. So personally, if I'm in there in that middle of the first, I'm not going to take Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to take one of the top receivers, whether it be Puka, JSN, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra. I talked about in the last video, I love Amon-Ra. And if I'm there, say I'm picking at the 5 spot or the 6 spot, I'm taking Amon-Ra St. Brown all day before I take Christian McCaffrey, and not even thinking twice about it. We'll stay here at the running back position. There's another running back that I have talked about a little bit. Somebody whose talent is off the charts. I love him as a prospect. I love what I think he's going to be in the NFL. I just don't love where he is being drafted right now in fantasy football drafts here in July. And that is rookie running back for the Cardinals, Jeremiyah Love, currently being drafted in the middle to late pick in the second round. That's just a little too steep for me. We've seen this with rookie running backs in the past. We saw it with Ashton Genty. We've seen it with Bijan Robinson, and a handful of other rookie running backs where we overreact to them in the offseason and we draft them high because we think they're going to be the next big thing. So specifically when you're sitting in a redraft lobby, I don't like taking Jeremiyah Love only because he has a very crowded backfield. He has probably not going to be a very good team, probably not going to be leading a lot of games, not going to be grinding it out in the second half, probably not going to score a whole lot of points. And so when you factor all those things in, that's just a little too rich for my liking in the second round. In the end of the second round, he's going around guys like Saquon is there, Chase Brown is there, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs even. Sometimes Omarion Hampton falls there. Those are all guys that I would much rather have than Jeremiyah Love right now this season in the NFL. Again, I love Jeremiyah Love's talent. I love him as a prospect. I love what he could be moving forward. I just think Tyler Algier is going to be too involved in that offense. I think that they're going to throw a lot. They're going to have to throw a lot. And I think Jeremiyah Love could be a very risky pick if you get him in the second round. If he's your running back 2, if he falls to the third round maybe and you take him there, I may be okay with it. I still just think it's going to be a very bumpy road. I've talked about the strength of schedule for the Cardinals to start this season. It's going to be brutal. I think they're going to be trailing in a lot of games. And if I'm the Cardinals, why am I putting him out there? If I've got these other capable backs that I've paid, why am I rushing the rookie out there, just taking the chance of him getting hurt in these games that we're not even in? It doesn't make sense. So that's my fear. If I were to take Jeremiyah Love, I could just sense that feeling of being in November and seeing the Cardinals with one win or something and Jeremiyah Love standing on the sidelines, and I'm just wondering why I took him in the second round when I could have taken one of these other running backs that have a lot more upside right now, like an Omarion Hampton, Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs. Just a lot to love about those guys, and just a lot of fear with Jeremiyah Love for me. I think in a dynasty league, Jeremiyah Love is a great pick. He's going to be a great NFL talent, great NFL running back, just not this year. I think I talked about it in the last video or in a video. I think if you don't draft Jeremiyah Love, you could probably trade for him around that week 6 to week 8 for fairly cheap. If you throw in a couple RB2s, RB2 and a flex, you could probably get Jeremiyah Love depending on your league. If it's just a straight redraft league, I got to think a lot of managers are going to be ready to dump him at that point, just based on the pure strength of schedule that the Cardinals have had. Their run game is not going to be very good at the start of the year, I don't think. And I think you're much better just waiting and trying to get him as the season unfolds. Moving over to the wide receiver position, a wide receiver who I was all about coming into last year. Loved him because he was going late in the draft, sometimes even undrafted. And as the season went, he got some reps, but he never could quite get on the field enough. That changes completely this year in Chicago. DJ Moore leaves to go to Buffalo, and Luther Burden steps into what should be potentially a wide receiver 1 and the number 1 pass catcher role in Chicago. Love Luther Burden, love the talent, do not love where he's being drafted right now. He is going in the end of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round. And that's just a little too steep. I think that there's a lot of question marks when it comes to Burden and the Chicago offense. There's, obviously Rome Odunze is there. Colston Loveland is there. They have that running game that they love and want to rely on. I'm just not sold on Luther Burden there in the 4th, 5th round. If he fell down, to the 6th or 7th round, I would be all about it. But when you've got guys like Mecca Ibuka there, Devontae Smith, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, Devontae Adams. I mean, geez, there is a list of guys that I would rather have before I take Luther Burden. I think as the summer goes on and as we get into August, I think that Luther Burden's ADP is going to come down a little bit. Right now, just a little too rich for my liking. Again, if I could get Luther Burden in the 6th or 7th round, I'm all about it there. If he could be my, I don't know, wide receiver 3 or my flex, I feel really, really good about that. Even as a wide receiver 2, I probably feel okay because I probably have really good running backs at that point. But Luther Burden right now in the 4th round, a little too steep for me. We'll stay at the wide receiver position, and one guy that's going much later in drafts, a guy who has been kind of up and down in his career, and that's Jordan Addison in Minnesota. Obviously has had the legal issues in his career and just has battled to stay on the field or get on the field, whatever. He played 17 games his rookie year, 15 games, 14 games last year. So kind of an up and down, but he also has never finished inside the top 20 at the position. Loads of talent, loads of speed. Hasn't always had a quarterback that could get him the ball, not even a quarterback that could support one receiver in Minnesota, let alone 2. And now they bring in Juwan Jennings from the 49ers this offseason to kind of crowd up that wide receiver core a little bit. And just a lot of worries there for me in Minnesota for Jordan Addison. He's going in the middle of the 9th round. You can get him in the 10th round even. This one is more just I'm just steering clear of the player altogether. He's proven time and time again that he can't be trusted off the field. He makes some very dumb decisions, and I'm just steering clear of Jordan Addison. I think Juwan Jennings is a great pickup for the Vikings. I think him and Jefferson could have big years this year as long as Kyler Murray can get them the ball. I just don't think there's enough to go around to support Jordan Addison as well. And when I look at who he's going around guys like Chris Godwin, Wan'Dale Robinson, Quentin Johnston, Ricky Pearsall, Michael Pittman. Pittman's a little question mark, but those other guys should get plenty of work in their offenses. I think for a guy like Jordan Addison, who I project to be the number 4 pass catcher for the Vikings, I don't see spending up on the 9th or 10th round to get a guy like that who's not going to get that many targets. I think he's going to have some deep balls every game. He's going to probably score a few touchdowns. But week in and week out, I don't think you can rely on Jordan Addison in your lineup. I know just a couple years ago, he was being put into people's lineups as the wide receiver 2, and it never really panned out. I mean, he had some boom weeks, but now, especially with Juwan Jennings there, I think Jordan Addison is about to plummet in value. So taking him in the 9th round seems really, really irresponsible, I guess, to me, when you could take other guys that are going to be way more involved in their offenses. And then last but not least, we will take a look at the tight end position. This is a tricky one because tight end is always a tricky position to predict and to navigate throughout the season. You've obviously got Brock Bowers, Trey McBride that are there at the top, and I think that those are the undisputed 1-2. Some people want to put Colston Loveland up there and Tyler Warren up there, but I think there's a clear break between tier 1 of Bowers and McBride and tier 2, whoever that is that you want to put in tier 2. And to me, I personally have never been a believer of those middle round tight ends. I think that there's way too much value in receiver and running back at that point in the draft that I'm not going to spend up to take a guy like a Kyle Pitts, who I'm actually a lot higher on this year than I think a lot of people are. I really like Stefanski there for what he could do for Pitts. But just as an example, a guy like Kyle Pitts, a guy like Harold Fannin, a guy like Tyler Warren, who I like the talent of Warren. I like the talent of Loveland. I think that they are very good receiving tight ends. But I also think that if you wait and you take a guy like Isaiah Likely, like Dallas Goedert, like Travis Kelce, the separation from tight end 3 to tight end 10 is not going to be that drastic. I mean, just look at last year. You had your separation from tight end 1 to tight end 2 was 100 plus points. And then from tight end 2 to tight end, I think it was 8, was like 19 or 20 points. It was some crazy number like that. Not a very wide margin. And so why reach for a guy like a Loveland or a Warren, who I really like, but I could get way better value at those positions when I look at the draft, and I could get a Tet McMillan, a Brees Hall, a T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, Bucky Irving, Lamar, Ibuka, Smith, Wilson, guys going around Warren, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Cam Scatteraboo, Quinton Judkins. I could just wait. I could stack up on those positions at the running back and the receiver, load my team up there, and then take one of these late quarterback or tight ends, even stream tight ends throughout the season. There's going to be guys that pop off. Now, the one exception to that, there is a guy in the middle rounds that I think is being extremely undervalued right now, and that's Tucker Kraft for the Green Bay Packers, going right now in the 7th round. I think that number is going to skyrocket as we get closer to the end of August and the start of the season. Tucker Kraft was leading tight ends last year and went down with that injury. I think had he not gone down with that injury, he would be right up there with the McBride and the Bowers. He would maybe be on a tier of his own at tier 2. Tucker Kraft is a guy that I would advise taking in those middle rounds, but all the other ones, and I don't know. I think, if Tucker Kraft was right there in that 4th, 5th round with Loveland and Warren, I would probably say the same thing as stay clear of him. But in that 7th round, I think Tucker Kraft is a great value. And I just think any of these other tight ends, you could just wait on and get a guy late in the draft, like a George Kittle coming back from injury. He's being pushed way down draft boards in that 10th and 11th round. Even a guy like Sam Laporta is way down in the draft compared to where he had been. And I'm not a huge Laporta fan, supporter, whatever, as far as fantasy goes, but his value has dropped drastically. I mean, this is a guy that was going up there in that 2nd, 3rd round after his rookie year, and he's dropped every year since then. So now I think that price is okay. I just really struggle to take Loveland, Warren, Pitts, any of those middle Fannin, any of those middle tight end guys. I either want to be at the top and take one of those top tier, or I'll just wait completely, punt at the position. That's kind of the consensus of what to do with quarterbacks and tight ends. I personally like to do that more with tight ends than I do quarterbacks. I find that it's a lot easier to find a guy, or maybe your misses are a lot smaller at the tight end position because those tight ends 5 through 12 are only putting up, 8, 9, 10, 11 points on any given week, whereas your quarterbacks could put up 6, or they could put up a 30, depending on who you have there. So I like to punt at the tight end position if I don't get one of those top guys. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Who are some guys that you're steering clear of? Maybe it's past biases that you had these guys on your team, they burnt you, and you are trying to steer clear of them. Maybe it is due to ADP. Maybe it's just they play for a team that you don't like. I don't know, but let me know down in the comments who are some guys that you're steering clear of. I look forward to checking those out and chatting with you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.